Louis, welcome. And I wanted to ask you to first introduce a little bit about the Shure standard. What do you typically tell people about the standard who haven't heard of it before?
The Shure standard is a third-party verification standard for sustainable and resilient infrastructure. It's a multi-stakeholder process that has set the standard. It's included stakeholders from a whole range of different sectors and geographies.
What have you learned in the first years of implementing the Shure standard?
I think what's been really interesting for us has been going through the process of working with those projects and implementing the Shure standard. All of them have walked away with a very positive experience. And a lot of the project developers that at the beginning sort of also have a mindset of, we've been doing this for 100 years. Our company, we know how to run these projects. I think it's been very interesting, the dialogue with this kind of mindset to say, actually, the last 100 years is very different to the next 100 years. And this is really the focus of the standard. The biggest learning for us has really been that to make a project really sustainable and resilient, green and future-proofed, one really needs to go beyond regulation today. We've also learned that there are a huge number of benefits. So, in terms of improved risk-adjusted returns, short-term and long-term financial benefits, social license to operate, and to give a small anecdote, I had a conversation with a project developer a little while ago who was had quite a negative mindset, let's say, at the beginning of the process, and then at a certain point came back and said, all right, I'm converted to this process. So he presented his project to the mayor's office, and the first question that was asked was, what are you doing to make our city more sustainable and resilient? And he was able to answer immediately, I'm getting Shure certified. And he received the same question from financiers that he's approaching, and again, he was saying, we're on the front foot, we're getting Shure certified. And this for him was an enormous benefit. What that company has taken from one Shure certification, they're now applying to all of the projects that they're designing in the future.
Welcome, Eva.
Thank you, Anders.
I want to start by asking, in general, based on your experience, what's the difference between projects that pursue ESG certification as opposed to projects that do not?
Those projects definitely will attract more green financing, sustainability financing, or even development finance. So the perception of the public eye, I think that's the second very important point. The projects are a lot more attractive to financiers because they are more looking at ESG criteria and compliance with sustainability criteria. So I think this is the first and most important point for applying the Shure standard. The public, especially also in Indonesia, gets more and more aware of those criteria like the human rights issues, social issues, and also environmental issues. So I think those two are the most important and the major points to apply the Shure certification standard.
And could you tell us a little bit about your experiences to date with the Shure standard, and especially how much time does it take to implement the Shure standard for projects that are seeking to undergo certification?
Well, first we have the stage 1 audit, which is the document review, checking all the provided documents and the self-assessment criteria. So that's 1 or 2 days depending on the size of the project. And then the stage 2 audit, which is an on-site audit that depends also on the size of the project, maybe 2, 3, 4 days at a maximum. I think that's the duration of the certification process as such.
And for a country like Indonesia, what would be the importance of adopting an international standard as opposed to using the existing national standards or developing a new national standard for Indonesia?
Well, firstly, I think there is not such a complex standard available in Indonesia like the Shure standard. There are different standards from different ministries. Having an international standard that is covering all the different criteria will be very beneficial, and that can be shown to all the stakeholders and should be accepted, because many big infrastructure projects in Indonesia are financed by either or financed by PPP projects or by development projects, or even Indonesia has released a green bond for their train project in Jakarta and their LRT project to Bandung. So also these projects have to comply to the ESG criteria, and applying an international standard would be very helpful here.
I wanted to start by just asking you to tell us a little bit about why international standards would be important in China.
I think it's because of the globalization. So you have seen that we have entered China market for over 30 years. We have seen that more and more Chinese enterprises, they adopt international standards, and also they place more and more important roles in global economy. So I think adopting the international standards allows the enterprises in the same industry or in the whole supply chain to have a common language, and also common understanding on quality, environment, social, and the governance.
So just 2 weeks ago, we know that the first Shure certified project was actually celebrated at the Andahu project in Shandong province in Dezhou. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that project and why they pursued Shure certification.
I think the Andahu project, by adopting the Shure standards, they have seen the value of the certification. I think we can see in 3 aspects. First, I think by taking the standards, they have taken actions on the efficiency of the energy management, also material efficiency, and also the management on the waste and also the risk. I think this standard help them to have good management on the cost control. On the other side, I think they have integrated the Shure standards into their daily management. That's also improved the management system of the company. I think the third point, I think by receiving the Shure standards, it proves Andahu is the responsible enterprises. This also brings in more opportunities on the sales and also can attract more investors in the future.
So now that you have experience with the Shure standard, how would you say that it compares to the other standards you've implemented or certified in the past?
We all know the green building standards. So I think the Shure standard compared with green building, it covers all the dimensions of sustainability. The Shure standard is applicable for the different stage of construction, from the planning and the design and construction to the dimensioning. So that gives the project owners more flexibilities. They can apply the different stage. The Shure have unique scoring systems, and the enterprises could apply depending on their management systems and also the compliance of the criteria. They can apply bronze, silver, and golden certificates. I think the Shure standard is more practical and give the rules and also the guidance for the enterprises for continuous improvement.
Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alice.
And we're here to talk today a little bit about the Shure standard. Let's just start out right away by talking about what your experience so far is with the Shure standard.
I've been a member of Shure Standard Committee for more than 5 years. And before the inauguration of the Shure Standard Committee, actually the Shure Standard, the predecessor of Shure Standards, used to be a kind of self-assessment as well as a kind of indicator system. Is not yet upgraded to the standard level, just a kind of indicator system. About 5 years ago, the standard was established, and the experts from all over the world developed this standard. And I'm so happy to see that the standard now has already entered into the implementation stage and already been regarded and implemented as one of the global certification standard. I think Shure standard that will help a lot to facilitate the sustainable development for the local government and as well as the central government.
What's the value of having international standards when many countries or many individual banks or investors might have their own individual standards?
First, by applying international standards into the social and the economic development of the developing countries, they could, as soon as possible, narrow the gap with the developed countries. And second, I could say, because standard in the general term is regarded as a path to the global market. So in this regard, I could say that international standard could provide a kind of green path for the developing countries, either is their products or the service or other things to go globally, to enter into the global market.
How would you describe the difference between projects that choose to go for the certification with those that are not opting to go for that?
Yeah. So generally speaking, the traditional projects sometimes focus only on the cost, quality, and construction stage or construction period. But Shure standard or sustainable standard take consideration of more factors, especially the factors of sustainable and resilient factors into the construction of projects, especially the whole life cycle of construction projects, including planning, design, construction, operation, and even the dismantling stage.
Just one follow-up question. You mentioned that, of course, the traditional or typical project would mainly be concerned about quality and just getting the job done. But that doesn't mean that adopting a standard is necessarily burdensome or very time-consuming, because, of course, everybody cares about making sure the projects are not set back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Traditional projects also have some standards, but the standards will not focus so much as Shure on the sustainable and resilient aspects. From this sense, I could say Shure standard will enjoy a very good market in China or in the developing countries.